This month's scrutiny meeting was 3 minutes short of 4 hours, so it's going to be quite a task to condense that into just a few minutes, but I will try my best for you. It started out with Alan Short, who you may remember as a member of the public that's part of the Save Middlewick Ranges group, and he came in with some surprising information about a letter that didn't go out to the council members that should have done, containing vital information about the ranges.
I do not believe that the councillors had the necessary and up-to-date information at that meeting to make a decision, because information from one of the statutory bodies in the UK were not circulated to the councillors before the meeting. Natural England emphasises the importance of considering the full ecological impact of development of the Middlewick Ranges and the necessity of upholding statutory biodiversity duties. It is a serious breach. The council had the letter, it didn't circulate it to the councillors, they had plenty of time to do so, and it was a very important letter.
Okay, I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to give us that clarity.
What's also very important is why was that letter withheld in the first place? And who by? Who made that decision that the councillors shouldn't get to see such a vital piece of information? Next up to have his say was Councillor Tim Young.
This story is broken today, and I think it's very serious, and I think it's important that Colchester City Council deals with it, and probably scrutiny is the best place to deal with it. It's about bailiff referrals rising by 20% over council debts, a story broken by the BBC. The actions taken by some of the bailiffs are in this BBC investigation. Well, it says one bailiff said he was incentivised to use underhand tactics. This council uses Jacobs as bailiffs, and I've had constituents complain to me about the actions of Jacobs acting on behalf of the City Council and had to get council officers to remedy it. When we use bailiffs, we use them at the last resort in very serious circumstances, and we certainly wouldn't want to use bailiffs who are using underhand tactics or dodgy practices. So I just wanted to raise that with you tonight because I think it is very serious, and I want the City Council to have clean hands on this.
It's very good that Councillor Young raised this point at the meeting, but if you really want clean hands, then I'm afraid you need to look at the whole collection of council tax full stop. As that gentleman that you tried to have evicted from the last full council meeting told you, it's done in an unlawful way. And the scrutiny panel already know this because Lance from the Peacekeepers informed them at the previous meeting.
He asserted that council demanded money. This is equally true legislatively. Council tax is a demand notice, as a bill would require a contract under the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882. Lastly, the Localism Act of 2011 clearly states that council has power to do anything that individuals generally may do. Consequently, given that I may not demand money with menaces, then neither may council.
So as Lance said, council tax is a demand for money. It is not a bill. It is like having your neighbour come round without you asking and cut your front lawn. Now, you might be very pleased your neighbour has cut your front lawn, but then if they came round later and put a demand through your letterbox for £10 and then told you they were going to cut your grass every week and it was going to cost you £10, you might have something to say about that. So the way many of us would like the system to work is that they ask us what are the key essential services that we want to pay for. And they tell us how much that's going to be. Say, for argument's sake, the essential services cost each and every one of us, say, £50 a month. And then if there's additional things we want, it could be like a drop-down menu when ordering a takeaway. You've got your main meal and then it's like, would you like fries with that? So you could say, yes, I would like to pay an additional £10 a month to keep the children's playgrounds going. Or you might want to pay an extra amount a month, which you choose, for the libraries or for the park. And then there could be an option to help somebody that's on a low income. Would I like to help support someone? Yes, I'll do an extra £10 a month. So that for me would make me feel really good. At the moment, I feel like I'm being mugged every month. Now I've started studying the council more and I can see just how much money they fritter away and waste on a daily basis. It makes me really quite cross. So to be able to know that that money I'm putting into the system, to know exactly where it is going, and this would be something where blockchain technology would come in very handy because there'd be an open ledger, you could see who's contributed, you could see exactly where that money goes. You wouldn't need to send the boys round because everyone would know who hasn't paid their fair share. If anything, it would probably encourage people to be more generous when they know that all their neighbours are seeing what they've contributed. And this needs addressing as well. Who on earth decided that Colchester only gets to keep 12 pence in the pound and the majority goes to Essex County Council? We do much better providing these services ourselves, like fixing the potholes. They might actually get done then. So this would be a much fairer system. It would be much easier for us to control what the council spends its money on. So that's the system that we're going for. Contribution, rather than the extortion of pay this money or I send the boys round. So that's how it should be done, but that is not how it is done, as we all know. And as a result, our money is spent on a gazillion things we do not want it spent on. So Colchester Council, if you're really as progressive as you think you are, why not set this up? It would be much fairer all round, and it would save you the weeks and months of debating what you should and shouldn't spend money on, because the public would tell you. They'd vote with their pounds. So if you'd like to learn more about the lawfulness of council tax, Karina and I did an interview with Brian and Lance from the Peacekeepers, which I'll link to below. Do be very careful and do your own due diligence when dealing with this, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Do not follow the Freeman of the Land stuff, and do not confuse it with the English Constitution, which is what the Peacekeepers are talking about. Talking of a fair system, I'm sure the viewing audience is absolutely going to love this next part, courtesy of Councillor Goss.
And we created a joining fee of £35 per bin and £55 per bin for it to be emptied. The service has now launched, so the good news is that we are currently subscribing 22% of our households, which is double the original business case. So from an income point of view, we've more than adequately beaten the targets in the business case.
So the estimated budget for the forthcoming year includes expenditure of 699,000 and income of 2 million, resulting in a net income of 1.3 million for the council.
Congratulations on the take-up rate, which I guess is good news, although raising more tax, we all know, is massively unpopular. And but I guess from the council's point of view, it's good news.
Can we just talk terminology correctly, please? It's not tax, it's a service charge, because they're paying for service. It can't be added to your council tax bill by law, because it's not allowed by government, and government allows you to bill for it separately as a service charge. It is not a tax. So can we be really crystal clear on language, if you would?
Whatever it is, Councillor Goss, it's massively unpopular.
That has been transformed over the course of 2 years from a cost of 1.8 million to a profit of 1.3 million in terms of the surplus revenue which we're getting in. So from a financial point of view, we're actually 3 million, almost £3 million better off by the decision to implement garden waste, which I think is quite a phenomenal turnaround.
So yes, they're making huge profits at our expense. Now, I'm glad they've not made a loss. I must admit, I'm amazed anyone took them up on being thoroughly fleeced like this. But there we go. There's obviously people who are desperate to have their garden waste taken away that they will pay. And Councillor Sunix is right. People are angry over this. To take away a service that's always been part of what we're paying for and then to charge extra is nothing short of daylight robbery. So I'm fuming over this, and it doesn't even affect me. I compost all my garden waste, and what won't compost, I cut up and use as kindling on the barbecue. So this has no impact on me whatsoever. But knowing this has come about because of poor financial management is really galling. It is very clear when you look at their accounts, and especially when you compare it to other local councils. Now, Councillor Sunix mentioned their debt is about 132 million, and he said it was on a fixed rate interest, but I'm not entirely sure if that's correct, because Lobo loans normally are variable rate, and the companies can put them up to whatever they want whenever they want. So I do hope Councillor Sunix is correct that they are on a fixed interest rate. So what happened in the rest of the meeting? Well, it was a lot of hot air, basically. I think they wasted about 2.5 hours just kicking the ball backwards and forwards. Whenever there was a question, they would just pass it on to somebody else, and it would go backwards and forwards, a bit like watching a football match. When no one actually moves forward, they just pass it from side to side rather than actually getting anywhere. Now, whilst it's good to show appreciation for team members that work hard, I did begin to think I was witnessing an evening of the Oscars for a film I didn't enjoy, and the thanks was never ending, which might be a little premature considering the state of the finances.
Some new and excellent finance members, one being Chris here and the other being Andrew.
taking that full strategic and important Section 151 officer role. So that's been fantastic working with them. So I do think, thanks to Chris and Andrew, we have started to present our papers in a bit of a better way. So I thank Chris and the team for that. I want to thank David as well as leader for ensuring that open process has happened, even beyond just the members' briefings with those leaders alumni as well, and bringing in a fantastic asset in the person being Patricia Barry. She's got fantastic expertise. I think everyone cross-party has been impressed with her so far. So thank you to officers, thank you to Richard Block for that, putting that table together in response to the leaders' alumni budget. So things have got more transparent, and I thank councillors for their comments earlier, and do direct them to Chris to my left here, because he is absolutely championing that and leading on that, and I thank you genuinely, Chris, for that.
So I do hope this new finance team lives up to the sheer amount of praise that has already been bestowed upon them from Councillor Corey and his colleagues.
We are increasing council tax in line with many other councils to ensure a contribution goes towards the base budget. There is within this budget an element of contribution towards the general fund reserve, so we are able to balance the budget and actually use some surplus to go into the reserves.
What I don't understand though is £1 million for IT every year. What's £1 million in IT, please?
Yep, wouldn't we all like to know more of that answer, but I can give you as best as I can. So first of all, it's prudent to put that in, because otherwise we'll keep getting sort of large capital amounts come along. But there is a revenue cost as well, the licensing. If you imagine the licenses we have to pay to have our Microsoft and different programs and Capita Pro, all these different programs we use across the council. So half of that comes in licensing, and then the rest is more about capital kit.
So if you saw the last episode, you know all about the licensing. How karmic that they themselves are charged a licence fee in order to issue a licence. So to summarise over 2 hours of hot air, basically this represents the council's accounts. So imagine Councillor Sunnox on one end trying desperately to get to the bottom of the figures, whilst those that are in the cabinet holding on to the bit he's tugging on. So he constantly tugs and says, can I have access? And the people over here say, oh no, we're giving you access, we're giving you access. Yeah, but not to the things I need. You're giving me access to something else. And he's constantly yanking, trying to get to the bottom of it. And then finally, he gets one piece out. But that one piece, he realises, is tied into all the other pieces, and then he needs another piece, and the process starts again with a lot of backwards and forwards, and then there's more stuff in the way, and then when he finally gets this piece out, he finds yet more tangles and knots, and then he's pulling away and trying to sort it out. That is basically what happened in the remaining 2 hours. You'll be pleased to know in his summaries that Councillor Sunnox did restrain himself and only used the term salami slicing twice. Well done, Councillor. I know you wanted to use it more, I could tell, but well done on restraining yourself to 2. Councillor Willits joined in and got a different piece of string and had a tug on that, trying to get to the bottom of it. Meanwhile, Councillor Corey was busy telling everyone that the new string managers were much better than the old ones and that fresh eyes would help sort all this out. So, there you go. That's a summary. At the end of the day, though, it's important they all get along well and work together. It's the only way we're going to get through this. So Councillor Willits wanted to end the meeting on an upbeat note. Councillor Sunnox, on the other hand, wasn't having any of that.
A degree of support, not 100% support from us, because we've identified that we just don't have the information to say this is 100% approved. But what we've heard has, in the main, given us confidence as a panel that this is a budget which is fit for purpose.
I'd just like to record that I disagree with that.
Okay. I'm going to conclude the meeting. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.